I don't think I've ever properly introduced myself on this channel. Like, I made two travel vlogs and that I have friends because, well, I made those travel vlogs while traveling with my friends. So, hey, they call me Erica because I am Malaysian Chinese, so I have a Chinese name that is incredibly hard to pronounce, and I gave up during my teenage years, and I made everyone else call me Erica instead. Now that's fun, but that's not what we're gonna talk about today. I think one of the best ways to get to know someone is through the movies and TV shows they watch. Say you love white chicks, you're probably cheerful, you're probably happy-go-lucky, and you have that golden retriever type of energy. And say you like PS, To All the Boys I Loved Before. You are probably still in your teenage years and you have a little tiny bit of hope left for romance in general. Well, if you like horror movies, you have issues. Get some help. So this is where we are today. We are gonna talk about my favorite TV shows and movies and the reasons why I love them. And I'm gonna post this video onto the internet for everyone else to judge me based on that. And I think that's a genius idea. So first things first, Gilmore Girls. Gilmore Girls is a 6-season coming-of-age dramedy series about Lorelai and Rory Gilmore, the mother-daughter duo and best friends at the same time, who navigate love, ambition, and life in Stars Hollow, a small town in Connecticut. You would know how much I love this show just by looking at this cup I've got here. I watched the show during what I like to call the dark ages of my life because by then I just graduated, and as a result I wasn't really sure what I was going to pursue. I wasn't really sure what my career was going to look like, and I had sort of like a panic attack. So I was also unemployed for quite a long time if you compare it to my other college peers. Yeah, as a result, I was just a total burnout mess. And, with the whole comparing myself to my other college peers, it makes matters worse. So I actually related to Rory a lot when she dropped out of Yale. I know, hot take, because to a lot of viewers, it's a sin for Rory to drop out of Yale. Because why did you drop out of Yale? But for me, it's alright that she dropped out because who am I to judge? That's first things first. And second of all, I understood that she was a burnout mess. I understood that she was really lost. So I really do not blame her for dropping out of Yale and just figure things out at the DAR at her grandmother's house, although she was a little spoiled, to be honest, but that's another story for another video. Honestly, when I was watching this show, it felt reassuring for me because I knew that it was just a phase for her. So whatever I was going through, my dark ages, it was also just a phase for me. So enough about when and why I watched that show. We are gonna talk about the world building of this show, because when you talk about this show, how can you not talk about its world building? Take the town of Stars Hollow, for example. Although it's a fictional town, but the amount of details the writers are given to this town makes it feel so real. It's like it's an actual town that exists in somewhere off the corner of this world. And it's actually a really entertaining and relaxing show to watch. You know how sometimes you are just tired of things that are going on around you and you just need to sit down and relax, turn your brain off. Like, this show is amazing for that purpose. And to this date, it's actually my comfort show because I would turn it on, like random episodes on, like a podcast. But what I think makes this show so great is actually its women-centric narrative, meaning that women are not just plot devices, but they are actual characters with their own set of motivations and goals, and that they are given the agency to chase after those motivations and goals. You see, in a lot of popular movies and TV shows, male characters are given so much space to fuck things up and then redeem themselves afterwards just because they can, and there are not many serious consequences for them if they fuck up. But for female characters, that is rarely ever the case. I think that explains why a lot of our male counterparts are so blindly confident in themselves, but we are a little more cautious when it comes to things. I mean, they grew up watching Superman for fuck's sake. Like, you are the hero and you can save everyone around you, you can change your environment. But what did we grow up on? We grew up on Sleeping Beauty. The one where you touch a needle and life as you know it is gone forever, and you are just gonna have to fall into a deep slumber for 16 years, and you have no other choice until someone else somehow comes into your bedroom and kisses you unconsented. But in Gilmore Girls, almost every single one of the women characters are already fucking things up or are on their way to fuck things up. And that is why I love this show so much, because women are actually given the opportunity, the chance to fall down and to get back up by themselves, solve problems with their own intelligence. And I think that is super representative of actual women, because if you think about it, a lot of women in our lives are actually just amazing problem solvers. And when I need advice, I go to a woman. I think that is super empowering, and it just shows us a different possibility of going about life. All that being said, the whole women-centric narrative thing, my favorite episode actually has nothing to do with that. It is Friday nights, alright, for fighting.
Fine, I have to go anyhow. Hey! Ugh, I can't believe what I'm hearing.
What are you thinking? Buying an airplane.
I didn't buy it, I looked at it.
I just think it is comedy gold. It is my comfort show, and thanks to Gilmore Girls, I am still subscribed to Netflix despite having nothing to watch for 2 months now on that platform. Which reminds me, I need to unsubscribe from it because I cannot do 30 ringgit every single month for a platform that I do not even use. The Marvelous Mrs Maisel. This is a comedy series about a 1950s housewife, Midge Maisel, who went on a journey to chase her stand-up comedy ambitions after she caught her husband cheating on her. Initially, I was attracted to this show thanks to its vintage 1950s aesthetics, as well as Midge Maisel's extensive range of clothing. This is another masterpiece of a series written by Amy Sherman-Palladino, and if you don't know who that is because I've never mentioned it previously, well, turns out she is also the writer and producer of Gilmore Girls. I actually did not know she wrote the show until her name popped up in the end credits, and by then I was already watching season 3. Do not ask me why I did not notice until season 3. I cannot wait for the end credits to roll out when I'm watching the TV show, okay? They left us on a cliffhanger. I need to know what's gonna happen next. I want to dedicate this session to just appreciate Midge Maisel as a character. Again, she is another beautifully flawed women character written by ASP. And I know that on the Marvelous Mrs Maisel subreddit, a lot of people trash Midge for literally everything she does, and I am actually sometimes still frustrated by the things she does. But that is the beauty of her character, in my opinion, because she is not your perfect mom, and she is not your perfect female lead. She's just a woman who comes in her charms as well as her flaws, and she happens to be the main character. I have 2 favorite scenes in the show, and my first one being the one where Abe Wiseman, Midge's father, finally recognizing Midge for her intelligence and her capability.
What could she have been if I had helped her and not ignored her, ignored who she really is? My daughter is a remarkable person, and I don't think I've ever said that to her.
In previous episodes, Abe actually gives 0 shit about what Midge is doing, and that goes the same for the other characters that are in Midge's life. And I think that is super reflective of our reality where, due to social conditioning, women are far less vocal about our projects and our passions, and we require way much more effort to prove ourselves and to be recognized by the people around us. I also want everyone to take a look at this part of the scene.
We should probably order.
Look at the silence, the diverting of topics after Abe just talked about how he failed to recognize his daughter's achievements. If you know, you know. If you get it, you get it. My second favorite scene is definitely the one of Mitch and Susie in the finale. The year is 2002. Mitch lives alone in her huge mansion and has to fill up his schedule with work because she is so lonely. But what happens next in the scene is actually a shot of Mitch reaching out towards her phone and calling someone, and then this happens.
Buddy, that smell, that's you. Enjoy your tomato juice bath.
Tomato juice bath.
Yeah, throw a celery stalk in there. You're gonna be a while.
I think this is such a refreshing take on lifelong companionship, because you see, the norm is you have to get married. Your lifelong companionship can only be the romantic partner you've chosen, or else you're just gonna be lonely and miserable as fuck. Often under this sort of narrative, a lot of power gets taken away from successful elderly women who choose to be single. Not that they care, because they are already successful and have probably achieved self-actualization. But we as a society, we like to assume these people are unhappy. So that's why I like this scene so much, because it just, again, it shows us another sort of possibility where you can go about life. Overall, I think this is a really funny and entertaining watch, but at the same time, it is also really inspiring. So if you are in need of some sort of inspiration. The year is 2065. Humans are threatened by extinction because of dust storms and widespread plant blights. Joseph Cooper, a former NASA pilot, is chosen to go on a human survival mission. He faces a dilemma between saving the human race or staying with his growing children. I actually find this film super poetic as well as romantic, not in the I love you and you love me type of way, but in the holy shit, this is so beautiful type of way. And the main theme of this movie here is definitely the human spirit, as well as love, as well as courage to conquer. I swear to God, every single time they put on Dylan Thomas's poem in this film, that is actually my favorite quote up to this date. Like, if I could, I would print it out and put it on my wall. That's how much I love that quote.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
I watched this when I was on my flight to Beijing. I was there for an award ceremony, so sitting next to me on that same plane were two other contestants who I was gonna see for the next 3 days. I cried watching this movie, so it was super embarrassing. Like, I was just sitting there and I was like bawling my eyes out, and then the two other contestants who I do not know are just sitting there.
You once told me that when you came back, we might be the same age. And today I'm the age you were when you left. So it might be a real good time for you to come back.
And when you talk about this movie, you gotta talk about the cinematography. Couple that with Hans Zimmer's scores, this is just cinema. I always appreciate realistic looking shots. Realistic, but also aesthetically pleasing, just like what they're doing with Interstellar. And I hate overly digitized shots, you know, the ones where they look a little bit too sharp. And that is why whenever I shoot my vlogs, I would also edit my shots to be less sharp. I would add in a little more blur, and I would like purposely overlay a grain over it just for it to look a little bit more easier on the eyes. Call Me by Your Name. It's 1983 in northern Italy. The French-Italian boy Elio meets Oliver, an American graduate student who came to live with Elio's family upon the invitation of his father, who happens to be Oliver's archaeology professor. I am a sucker for coming-of-age stories. Alright, remember that. I watched this movie twice. And my first watch was when I was 17, so by then I haven't really grown much brains. I probably did not understand most of the movie, but I loved it anyways, and I empathized with Elio's heartbreak, and I cried a lot while watching this movie. My second watch was when I was 21, so I understood it a little bit better, and I also cried like a bitch when I was watching it the second time. This is one of those movies that taught me acceptance, and it taught me how to embrace my emotions, because as a kid I was sort of closed off, okay? Emotions were weak. I was taught that emotions were weak, and I was taught that displaying my dissatisfaction was weak. Well, that is a lot of childhood trauma over there. But yeah, this movie was really the first time when I was taught, oh, I should actually accept things as how it is. I should actually let emotions flow through me. I should try to embrace it and try to experience it even, because that is part of life. If life was a dish, emotions are definitely the spices. Well, you can definitely have your chicken breast just boiled with no seasoning, but even if you just put a little bit of salt and pepper as well as rosemary's onto it, it tastes entirely different, and it's better that way. This is so wise coming from the great philosopher Erica. So my favorite scene goes without saying, this one.
We rip out so much of ourselves to be cured of things faster that we go bankrupt by the age of 30.
My second favorite scene is the one where Elio and Oliver dances in the streets during the middle of the night. Well, it's so vulnerable. It's so much vulnerability displayed, and it's so much of just two young people living in the moment, and that is why I love it so much. If you've ever watched this movie, you know by now how amazing the cinematography of this movie is. I can almost smell the peaches and citruses just by the shots from this movie. It is northern Italy in the summer, perfectly depicted. Although I've never been to Italy ever in my life, not even once, but I can assume that is how northern Italy looks like in the summer. And with that being said, this soundtrack, Sufjan Stevens. Oh my god, it's so good. But not just Sufjan Stevens soundtracks, I think a lot of other soundtracks from this movie are equally as good. It has a lot of music from the 80s, I think. Probably from the 70s as well, but I think it is mostly 80s. And because I am a hipster, I bought the vinyl as well. Oh, yeah, I bought the vinyl as well. And it's just, I would really want to open it up and show you, but that would mean that I would have to put my mic down, so I'm not gonna do that. And it has like this little poster in it. It's not exactly little, but this is, alright, this is so beautiful. Okay, now let's move on. Enough with the hipster shit. The Handmaiden. A story set in 1930s Korea under Japanese colonization. In this movie, Suki is hired as a handmaiden to a Japanese heiress, Hideko, who lives with her uncle in a secluded countryside mansion. Hideko is filthy rich, so a lot of people want to marry her for her money. Suki is hired by a conman specifically for that purpose. The set design. It is so beautiful. So the mansion that Hideko lives in interior design-wise, is very much heavily Victorian influence, but it also has this little mix of Japanese traditional architectural style mixed into it. So overall, the entire set design is actually very much East meets West, and I think it is super beautiful. I don't think I've ever seen such beautiful set design from films that are released in the recent years. Like, nothing could top this one. So couple that with the cinematography, the acting, as well as the entire direction of the movie, it really makes this movie a piece of art. It is a work of art. But the best part of the movie, in my opinion, is actually the plot. The story is told with the use of the Rashomon storytelling technique, and if you don't know what that technique is all about, we have to start talking about this technique from the Rashomon effect. The Rashomon effect is the phenomenon where an event can be described in multiple ways because there are multiple witnesses to that event. So this effect is actually named after Akira Kurosawa's film Rashomon. And now that we got that covered, let's go back to the film that we were originally talking about, The Handmaiden. So there are 3 parts to this movie, and each part are actually told in different perspectives. And from each of that perspective, you actually get to know some truths that were previously unknown to us. Yeah, I think that makes it a really interesting and fun watch, and it is especially a treat for people who love thrillers and mysteries. If you are a bookish person, definitely go read the original novel, which is called Locksmith, because this film is actually based on that novel. My favorite scene is definitely the one where they trash the library, and I think that is actually the most important scene from the entire movie. It is a big fuck you to the patriarchy, and it is also a big fuck you to the man who tried to control her all her life. I absolutely love that she managed to escape this mansion that was almost a jail to her with her own intelligence as well as the help of Suki. This scene definitely signifies the destruction of old patterns as well as a beginning to her brand new life. And this is actually the most touching and cathartic scene from the entire movie. And because I am a crybaby, so I cried again while watching this part of the movie. But I have to say, if you're gonna watch this movie, do not watch it with your parents. Same goes for Call Me By Your Name. Do not watch that with your parents as well. Alright? Advice taken. Advice taken. The Matrix. This is the story of the one. The computer hacker Neo, through an unexpected occasion, discovers the truth of the world he lives in. In fact, the world he lives in isn't real. It is a simulation and is merely a facade created by machines who have taken control over humans. The letter of fashion is to die for, okay? The whole black outfit with the black ass sunglasses. I want to live a day as Keanu Reeves. So this movie definitely has anti-capitalistic themes. Goes without saying, it is the classic case of the bourgeois versus the proletariats, aka the machines versus the humans. And this reminds me of Karl Marx's theory of alienation so much. Well, if you do not know what is the theory of alienation, welcome to Erica's unprofessional and probably not so accurate guide to socialism. So this guy who wrote this book states that human nature itself takes pleasure in labor and production, but here's the catch: the labor in itself has to be conscious, it has to be purposeful, and that it allows humans to express themselves creatively. But under capitalism, the workers produce for the owners of the means of production, not for a purpose, not for their creativity's sake, but for survival's sake. Okay, basically you are working for a wage but not a purpose. And because of that, our labor becomes alienated from us. We feel alienated from the things we've produced, from the things we do, because we are disconnected from our work and creativity itself. Nothing is yours, nothing belongs to you, and that is just miserable.
Karl Marx has come alive to me today. I never understood what he was yammering about before, and now it just seems so obviously wrong that those who control capital should make their fortunes off the labor of the working class.
So if I were to summarize alienation in a word that is more modern and that is easier to understand, it would be burnout. Case closed. What is awesome about the movie is that you can look at the movie through different lenses, whether it is Marxism or whether it is humanity and consciousness. They all make sense. We could also look at this movie as sort of a metaphorical representation of how our perceptions could shape our reality. And I like to talk about something called the life blueprint. You know, the one where you study and then you work to death, but in between of that, you find some time to somehow date, marry, and reproduce, and at the same time buy a car and buy a house. That one. Yeah, that ideology has been indoctrinated to us our whole life. Like, that is probably the safest and the most foolproof way to go about life, because if you do that, you are guaranteed to be safe and be comfortable. And we see a lot of people around us doing that, so obviously that is the blueprint, right? And that is why we fear so much of going against the life blueprint, because if we do that, we risk death, whether that is physical death or social death. But I think one thing I've learned so much from this movie is that when we free ourselves of social beliefs that could actually hold us down, we open up ourselves towards much more possibility and much more self-actualization and freedom, which is something that does not come to you if what you are envisioning for yourself goes against the so-called life blueprint. My idealist ass always tells myself to pick the red pill ever since I've watched this movie. I guess I want to stay awake and I want to not follow rules, at least not blindly, because I think it's okay to follow rules as long as you understand why those rules exist and you understand why you want to follow that rule. Yeah, but at the same time, I think this is also the reason why I suffer so fucking much. There are so many other philosophical nuances being represented in the film, and I think if you ever watch it as a grown-up, it just hits different. Because if you watch it as a kid, well, all you're gonna think about is, oh, that is a cool action movie, you know, people fighting on top of cars and they can flip. That is so cool. But as an adult, you probably would really understand what the authors are trying to say through this movie. Resurrection sucked, by the way, do not bother. So if you notice the lighting looking a little bit different, like it's a little darker, it's because the sun is gonna set soon and that it's gonna rain soon, so I better speed through this one. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Bloody hell, Harry. That was not funny.
I started watching Harry Potter last year. Yes, I've never watched Harry Potter ever in my childhood, in my entire life, until last year when I was 22. Well, I love the entire series, but I think I especially love this movie, and I think this goes the same for a lot of people in the fandom. Compared to all the other movies in the series, this one is a lot more introspective and it focuses a lot more on Harry's character development, his personal development, and I think it is just so great. And I love this movie for its time travel element, and I think it goes without speaking because I love Interstellar, okay? I love The Matrix, although The Matrix doesn't have time traveling element. But yeah, in the first part of the movie, I really thought Sirius was done for. And I would be so sad for Harry if that was the case, because this is Harry's one and only chance at getting a parental figure in his life. And I would hate for him to not get that chance just because we did not catch Peter Pettigrew. I also love the foreshadowing and the plot twists being uncovered in the second part of the movie. I think it's just awesome writing, okay? My favorite scene is the one where Harry thinks it is James who saved him, but in the end, it is actually he himself who did the whole expecto patronum and saved himself. The message that JKR is trying to send through this scene is so powerful. And I got to know that she actually wrote this part of the book when she was depressed. I mean, she wrote the book when she was depressed. So it is even more powerful with that message coming from a depressed person, someone who is in a really dark place, and that is what she chose to tell herself. That is what she chose to tell her readers. It's just amazing. And I know she is sort of a controversial person, but well, you gotta give credit where it's due. I couldn't get over the Harry Potter franchise afterwards. I actually went back to watch few of the movies. I rewatched them because I love the movie so much, and I for a certain period, like I was unable to find something as good as Harry Potter to watch. So yeah, that's the magic of Hogwarts for us, I guess. It is definitely a feel-good movie. Well, not when everyone died, but you know, in the first four movies, they were kind of feel-good movies, and it's something I would definitely rewatch again sometime during Christmas. The first one has to be Lady Bird. Well, again, I am a sucker for coming-of-age stories, and I actually love all the movies that has ever been directed by Greta Gerwig. I love Little Women as well. I love Barbie as well. I was actually so excited when Barbie was coming out, and I was like pining for it, waiting for it, because I knew it was directed by Greta Gerwig, and I knew that it was produced by Margot Robbie, so I knew it was definitely gonna be good. Atonement. I love tragic love stories, you know, where people fall in love but they cannot be together for some other reasons. And I just love that. I guess I am kind of sadistic, but I also think
it's when you can't be together that your love seems to be more real.
this is one of the most tragic love stories I've ever seen. It is the most tragic. Like, you thought Call Me By Your Name was tragic? You thought Call Me By Your Name was tear-jerking? This one is another different level of tear-jerking. Promising Young Women. This is the first ever film I've watched and written an analysis on, because it is an assignment for my media analysis class. And yeah, this one just holds like a really, really special place in my heart. And without this movie and without that assignment, this video can't even be made, because I would be dumb as fuck to even review movies, to even talk about movies. Jennifer's Body. This is another revenge film, but this one also has horror elements in it. In fact, a lot of horror elements in it. And yeah, I love Megan Fox. And I guess that's one of the biggest reasons why I love Jennifer's Body. But also, it is a cult classic, and I think there are a lot of channels that have been making analysis on this movie, so we're not gonna talk deeper about it. Some of my other favorite TV shows that I have not mentioned are Stranger Things, and I'm so excited for it to come out end of this year. Friends. It is Friends, okay? It's such a classic, you can't miss it. And oh, it's the end of the fucking world. Why did I not write this into my... That's okay. That's so good, and it's so funny, but okay, maybe it's not... Okay, maybe it's not my favorite ever, but I think this is one of the shows that I remember the most, because it has a lot of dark humor, and I love British people and their dark humor. So I guess you kind of get the gist by now, what kind of themes and stuff I gravitate towards, and you can start judging me from there. There are so many more films that I couldn't include in this video, because if I did, this video would never end. And let's be honest, no one is gonna watch me yap about films for 40 minutes, an hour straight. Thank you so much for hearing me geek out and yap, and I will see you very, very soon. Until next time.